Welcome to part 4, Couples Reconnecting Post-Deployment, where we'll cover repairs in our deployment story. All couples have disagreements, but what damages a relationship most is how quickly the arguments can turn nasty. The Gottman's research has shown couples who become hostile very quickly during disagreements are far more likely to break up. Nobody wants to live in a war zone, so Gottman uses the term soften your startup to encourage us to stay calmer for longer during disagreements. The ability to discuss sensitive issues while remaining calm is a basic entry-level requirement of a successful relationship. Interestingly, when an individual makes a deliberate effort from the outset to remain just a little calmer when going into a tense conversation, they usually find they can stay in complete control. This is because the very decision to stay calm involves the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And once activated, this human part of the brain inhibits the more primitive midbrain. So some suggested soft startups have 4 parts. I share some, using the statements. The first part would sound like this. I would share some responsibility for this. 2, here's how I feel. We would name a feeling word. 3, reference something about a specific situation. And 4, here's what I need. Let's listen to what it might sound like. A harsh startup would be, you never have time for me. Whereas a soft would be, I'm missing you lately and I'm getting a little lonely. Another example, you never take me anywhere. I'm sick of doing all the cooking. Soft startup would sound like, I'm tired of cooking. It would be really nice if you cooked or we went out. Another harsh startup, you don't have a clue about how to manage money. A soft startup, I'm feeling anxious about our savings. Let's talk and come up with a savings plan. We haven't necessarily been taught this practice of a soft startup, so being defensive is often a place we can jump to easily. So creating the space for softening your startup can make a difference. If this is not happening as much in your relationship, it may take some time to move towards it and away from criticism and negativity. The reality is we humans are going to make mistakes with our partner, and how we make repair attempts can bring us closer together. So we're going to take a minute and ask you to reflect on a recent experience with your partner that could have benefited from a softer startup. You can pause here and share an example with each other. Welcome back. When you do not have a chance for a softer startup, let's look at attempts to repair and reconnect. After recognizing that one has made a mistake, it's important to make a repair with your partner. The Gottmans explained that while it is normal to make mistakes and have conflict with your partner, healthy relationships are those that make repair attempts. Repairs defined by the Gottmans are any statement, silly or otherwise, that prevents negativity from escalating out of control. Repair attempts during conflict may look like this, maybe taking a break as you need them, accepting your partner's apology, being able to say you are wrong, calming yourself down, maintaining a sense of humor, being good listeners even when you have different positions on things, and starting over again and improving a discussion later. Through repair attempts, you are able to break negative patterns that can see a couple spiraling downwards. It is a skill and practice will help strengthen your ability to recover and thrive as a couple. So, how that apology could sound is, let me try again. I don't feel like you're understanding me right now, and I am sorry. Now you can take a minute here, take a pause if you'd like, and ask yourself and each other these two questions. Do you have a go-to repair attempt? One that you use more frequently? And can you see yourself trying a new one out? Enjoy the conversation with each other. Welcome back now. Let's move on. In part 2, we encouraged you to identify what has been going well and what has been working for you since your reunion. The following are a couple of questions to think about. Knowing what you've learned about yourself and each other, what would you tell your former self that would make things go smoother for the next deployment? Or another way to ask this question is, knowing what you've learned, what will you do or continue to do that is working? And what will you stop doing to prepare for the next deployment and for your relationship in general? You can take a moment now to talk about it. Welcome back from your reflection and discussion. Let me share a way to put all that together in one place. Our deployment story, or you can call it whatever you'd like, but there are 3 parts. This resiliency exercise you can complete with each other, where you get to create a story of your relationships, experiences of deployment or other things by answering the following questions we've enclosed on this slide. So when you're thinking back about what pre-deployment looked like, what was happening during that time? What was this phase like for you? How did you prepare your relationship? Maybe you checked all the deployment checklist items, except this one. During deployment, what was the deployment like for each of you? For your family members, how did you stay connected while you're apart? And did you have the opportunity to share those experiences? And post-deployment, or after reunion, what did that reunion look like? And what was it like for each of you, for your family members? And how are you creating a new connection? Take the story you've shared with each other and let it inform what you will do differently now and for the next deployment. And remember, the responses and questions become a story of this deployment. It's your story, and you can continue to add new chapters. Well, we've taken you on a bit of a journey and wanted to wrap things up by going over some additional resources. If you find yourself or your partner are staying stuck in the yellow zone of the relationship continuum, or you're in the orange maybe a little bit, and especially if you're in the red on the continuum, it is a sign of strength to reach out for support. A lot of couples who have received couples counseling report that has strengthened the relationship, and it was like getting a tune-up so things can run smoother. On this slide, we listed supports for couples, including the Canadian Forces Members Assistance Program. This is a no-cost short-term counseling supports available to CAF members and their families. Here at the MFRC, our mental health and well-being team, we have a family well-being counselors who can meet with couples to develop a plan just right for you. In addition, we can help you to navigate to other resources and support in the Canadian Armed Forces and civilian community. You just have to call our 427-7788 number and ask to speak to the intake coordinator. We also want to highlight that if you want to continue the work that you started by watching this video in terms of strengthening your coupleship, we have a no cost to you online program called Hold Me Tight. It's a 6-session online program that you do together. All you have to do is contact our intake coordinator, and it is based on the work of Sue Johnson that we've talked about this evening on this session. Another option for couples counseling is using your Sun Life or your public service healthcare plan to cover private counseling costs up to 80%. of $2,000 per person annually. You also can reach out for couple support at Psychosocial Services. And here's the number, 902-720-8607. If it's sometimes in couples conversations or couple support, it could be that you might need some personal mental health support. For the members, it's Psychosocial Services, and family members, SIFMAP, Community Mental Health, and there's a link that we can share with you in a resource document that we'll send out to you. All you have to do is connect with our email, which we'll show you later on. Our mental health and well-being team can provide some mental health support. It's non-clinical counseling support. And the team is comprised of intake coordinator, family well-being counselors, family liaison counselor, and a special needs and inclusion coordinator. Well, we've given you a lot of information in this 4-part session. We want to thank you for tuning in and choosing to put your relationship first. Here is how you can access the presentation slides and resource lists that talk about all of the Gottman and Sue Johnson resources we referenced in this session. All you have to do is email info@halifaxmfrc.ca. Thanks, everyone.